All right, so we're gonna edit the SWAT and the velociraptors, and I realized the issue when we downloaded these files that I actually gave you access to, even though the whole thing was zipped, these were still zipped, and you can't pull in footage that's still zipped. So we have the moving velociraptor, and we got different magic to kind of have more craziness go on. So again, you're going to have to extract those. So that's the reason why we don't see any of these pieces. So I'm going to add some different fog. Okay, now in here, I'm going to quickly put these in just so we can see them. Now all of this we've already edited in, so that means that I am going directly into this to work on it. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. Just that movement. Okay, that's all of the clips. So if I want anything that's going to be in front, so I have a bunch of different assets, so we're going to add some tracks before and after. So let's add 8 tracks after 24. And so now we got tracks before and after. Okay. All right. Now this makes it a little bit harder to see the zombies. So even though we're looking directly at the zombies, I can add a new graphic. Let's just say a rectangle. Okay. And then I want to put this at the very bottom. So I'm going to move this down below all my other tracks. And so I will see it at the very bottom. This will make it ultimately easier for me to edit these because I have a different background. Okay, so right there, this is what I want. I'm going to resize this. I'm not going to keep this on here, but it makes it so that I can see all the zombies. I want to add some different stuff. So this I'll just push way down at the bottom. Okay, so now let's go and bring in that footage. You have that wizard. That one, and that one. Okay, so we're adding the we're adding the SWAT. Now, a couple things that we want to do. So this is all happening. We got a number of those. We need to speed up. Let's do the rate tool. Everything's going to make sure that we're finishing at the same time. We don't want any of them to disappear. Okay, so we have the SWAT. There they are. They're in that back corner. They're all timed differently. Let's take this. Let's nest that whole thing. Right click, nest, SWAT. So there's my group. Now I'm going to duplicate this whole thing. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and I can individually position each one of these so I can have. Now realistically, I have all of these SWAT, and we can keep nesting and stuff as much as we want, but these really should be behind everything. So there's my SWAT. Let's see. We actually want them a little bit closer. All right. So we could still additionally take all of these and nest them again if I wanted to create a whole horde of SWAT group. There we go. Now let's create a whole bunch. And they're going to be in the background, so you're not barely seeing them. Okay. Now, all of these, we're going to need to move those down to the very bottom. So I want these underneath V2. Actually, let's do after V1. I'm going to add 3 tracks. We just nest them right inside there. So now they're going to be behind everything. Now it's like they're trying to stop. Okay. And let's see. So we got our velociraptors. We got smoke from wizards or whatever. We got velociraptors come in. Now, let's go ahead and save. Let's look at what that looks like. It's just a small little clip. And in order to make this look good, we have this marked as our in and our out. So now, because we have that, we can actually go to our sequence. The reason why this shows yellow and red is because we have it rendered. So we're going to render the from in to out so that it will play smooth. And this is going to take a little bit. So I'm just going to speed this part of the video. Okay, so now it's finished rendering. That's why it shows green. So it should play much better. So we're going to go ahead and go full screen. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, so now I can actually remove that graphic right there. Now, as soon as I do this, so I'm just going to toggle that off. We come back here. It's now no longer rendered with that clip there. I can also change settings here. I can choose for it to do full resolution while it's playing to see what it looks like. That usually will slow down your computer. Let's just back up some, see how that looks. That's because we have not rendered it. That is a lot of video frames for it to populate. We can bump it way down, which will make it play, but will play low res. This will help, or we're going to have to actually fully render that selection. Okay, so there's different things that we got to kind of think about when we're doing our stuff. We're going to do one more pass of rendering, and then we'll add our fog layers. We're going to add them in the front and behind, and some behind the actual woods, and that will help tie everything in, make it look pretty cool. And then we can go from there to adding our soundscape. Okay, so I'll speed up the video here. All right, so I've identified my fog. Now, one of the things that we want to do when we're looking at fog is that you're not just going to put one layer. It makes it a lot more believable if you end up having multiple layers. So we're going to go ahead and import this into our footage and then start adding it and sizing it to scale. If I nest everything, then I can easily put stuff above and below my layers. The fog's going to have to be blended because it's got a black background. Changing the starting and stop points, that's going to help. Also scaling up and down, we can change how we're blending it. We don't need to have a... And I can see my SWAT are in the wrong location, so I'm going to have to move them down. All right, so a couple things while I was editing, going through this. When we were getting to here, we had a weird kind of transition where you could see the edges. You still can kind of see the edge. You need to make sure that it's saved where the each layer is large enough. Also, if everything is set to screen, it washes out everything. You don't really want to do that. So anything that you use green screen, you don't need to change the blend mode. The other thing is that's problematic is when we nest stuff and we are moving the camera over, that makes it so it doesn't really mix very well because that movement for the fog and other layers were also moving and it made it not look as good. With a bunch of nested areas, we do want to have the fog not nested in there if the whole thing was moving, because that caused problems. So what I did is I cut a little bit of the movement here to hide that movement, and then I have my stuff. So I have SWAT, I have my velociraptors, I have my zombies, I got my ghost fog, wizard fog, whatever you want to call. And if you notice, it does wash it out a little bit because we did screen for a number of the things. You could individually go through and color, and that will make it, if we went through and we darkened the stuff because when we're blending, it will tend to lighten everything up. That will be helpful. But we have our footage with our crazy mix with fog layers beforehand to kind of blend. So we are ready for building the soundscape now. We've blended the fog. We've finished doing the final edit piece. There's a lot of layers on that. Okay, so we got a little bit of fog here. We're increasing as we go to the next shot. Now, a couple things that we could do to make this a lot better, and this one of the things where we don't want to just do with Premiere Pro. but we want to deal with After Effects as well, which is not really taught in this class. So let me just kind of point this out. So this shot that we have fog over top of this shot. If we cut out, and you could mask out, we could make a copy of this footage and mask out the person and keyframe it as he's moving, then essentially we have cut him out of the shot, and we can stack it. So we could put fog behind him and in front of him, and it would make it look a lot more believable. So like we would have fog behind here everywhere, and then as he's walking, it's like he's walking through the fog. So we'd have the fog on the front. That will make it look a lot more believable. It is a lot of work to try to cut a person out of a piece of clip. If you're just using Premiere Pro, you could use this with green screen, but since we're walking in the woods, this part right here would not work as well. Trying to do that as a green screen. So there's benefits and non-benefits for doing it this way. Now, if we were using After Effects, we could rotoscope and we could blend it a lot easier. But we have a lot of layers. We've rendered those pieces of clips. It's pretty much crazy what we see. There's our night shot. Now it is a little bit washed out, like what I said. Now we'd have to go through each one, each clip of the velociraptors and the people and stuff. Since we are blending with screen, it is washing out a little bit. We could color that a little bit more. But this is already quite a bit of work on coloring and getting these layers and having different frames for our velociraptors. Okay. So now that finishes off. We've done the edit with the SWAT, the velociraptors, the fog. We've added fog layers in front and behind the different shots. This is nested. There's multiple fog on top and below. When I go into the specific video layers here, we have fog above and below to further mix. Okay, so using more than one asset does really help make it look much better, but then you do got to be mindful, because as we were darkening everything, we lightened up stuff by introducing things that we were using to blend mode of screen. Okay, that's it. The next video is going to go over soundscape and how to use markers to make sure that we're getting good footfalls. All right, good luck. Have fun.